you listen to your users, they will tell you what they want, and then you have to be creative in creating the experience that generate value for them. This is what the customer centricity is, in my view, generating value so that users are willing to continue their engagement with you and continue their interaction. So qualitative analytics and UX research is what makes CRO effective. It's not about locking users in specific plan or specific flow, or forcing them into something behavior. Is eliciting this motivation and this willingness to do what we want them to do with value that we provide at each step of the flow.
Very warm welcome to the Understanding Users podcast, brought to you by Researchable UX. It's great to have you with me. I'm your host, Mike Green. I'm a freelance user research lead and digital consultant based in the UK. Over the coming weeks, I'm going to be chatting to various digital experts who I've had the pleasure of working with in recent years. They're from various disciplines, including user research, UX design, development, and product management. And they'll even be a digital business owner or two. I'll be talking to them about how they came to be in their current roles, what they've learned along the way, and what advice they may have for others getting into the field. These are intended to be relaxed, informal chats with professionals who are keen to share their experiences. So sit back and enjoy. Ihor Sokol is co-founder of ConversionRate.Store, a Ukraine-based conversion rate optimization or CRO agency. He's a CRO pro who's been in the field for almost a decade. In this episode, Ihor and I discuss the CRO and UX research strategies that he and his team use to drive up customer conversion rates for their clients, the challenge of finding the right CRO experts to work with him and his team, and the ways to convince sometimes skeptical clients the value of CRO. Finally, he plays my 3-card challenge to share his favorite UX tool, favorite technique, and a trend he sees in the future. If you'd like to help support the podcast, you can donate a very modest sum by buying me a virtual coffee. Simply go to coffee, that's ko-fi.com/understanding users. Links are in the show notes. That would be hugely appreciated. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ihor Sokol. I am from Ukraine, and I am a co-founder and a CEO of ConversionRate.Store, a performance-based CRO agency. Our focus is CRO and UXO, user experience optimization. We have a big team working in Ukraine, in Kiev and other cities in Ukraine. Some of our team are outside of Ukraine right now due to some circumstances, well-known circumstances, but our business is going well. The client base is constantly growing, and we're now growing to a 32 people agency and continue to hire.
So, Ihor, tell me, what kinds of clients do you have, and where are they based typically? Kind of what verticals are they in, and what locations?
Well, when we started, this was very much conversion rate optimization business, and we were focused on specific behavior, specific action that we're optimizing for. So lead gen was a natural client for us, lead generation with landing pages and sites with specific conversion forms and conversion flows. But then we expanded to encompass marketplaces, classified, SaaS, and e-com. Of course, e-com is number one business for us now. We focus on optimizing user behavior to infuse sufficient motivation into users in order for them to exert a specific behavior. It sounds very clever, but basically what it is, we are looking for ways of minimizing user frictions, user concerns, ambiguities, and increasing user motivation to do a specific action, like a sign up, a registration, or a purchase.
So I was going to ask you to define CRO, but you pretty much have there, right? Kind of that would be your sort of elevator pitch for kind of what is CRO for someone who wasn't familiar with the term.
You see, when I was trying to do it for myself, I said, This is a methodology of increasing user propensity to exert a specific behavior. But when we look at this, I mean, you can say about anything concerning marketing, that anything in marketing is a methodology of increasing user propensity to exert a specific behavior. But in our case, is that we have two aspects of that we're working on. We want to minimize what prevents users from doing something and maximize your user willingness to follow through every step and do what we want them to do. And this, what we want them to do, is something that generates significant value for users. So we know it's an important thing in conversion rate optimization. It's not about locking users in specific plan or specific flow, or forcing them into something behavior. Is eliciting this motivation and this willingness to do what we want them to do with value that we provide at each step of the flow. Just as an indication how we do this, just for your understanding, I mean, a very vivid example would be one of our clients who is an payroll automation, a big multinational in Israel, a unicorn. They have a conversion flow called schedule a demo, which is something that most high touch SaaS do. Now, what we did is we tried to identify what would be the actual reasons or the problems that users were trying to overcome with this solutions, this SaaS. So the payroll automation, self-explanatory. You click a button or you do a few inputs, and then you have multiple employees being paid, hundreds, thousands. But the initial reason, we want to understand how this problem initially arose. So what we found is that some users were referring to this. And by the way, this is a very like a basic of user research. So we were doing interviews, we were doing user surveys, we were doing user testing, asking and trying to identify why would users be initially willing to start looking for a solution like payroll automation. And what we found is that some users were saying that they're making too many errors when they do payroll automation and it costs them money. Some are saying that it's just too costly to do 5,000 or 500 employees manually. Some say that it just takes too long, and many other reasons. So what we did is we said, look, first, your form, the form that you have, we have to infuse user with motivation to complete this form. How we do this, we have to explain to them what are the benefits and what are the goals that they can accomplish with your solution. How do we do this? So instead of breaking down the form into small parts, like you would if you ask any CRO Pro, and how do you reduce the friction with a form, they tell you remove as many fields as you can and break it down into logical steps. So look, what if would go in a different direction? Instead of breaking down and reducing the cognitive load, we increase the scope of this conversion flow. And on the first stage, we will ask, what goals are you trying to accomplish? And we'll list all the goals, so user will have to read through them in order to click on the ones that were, select the ones that he wants to accomplish or she wants to accomplish. And by that action, we educate them what this solution actually does. The next step would be what benefits and features are most important to you. And the user would read through and would see there are many different benefits, many different features that are relevant to him or her, but they didn't have top of mind. Then the next step would be related to price. What price points are you looking for? And then the form. By the time users reach to the form, their motivation is so high because they invested so much time. Well, when I say so much time, I mean 1 or 2 minutes. It's not like 3 hours. They invested so much time into completing the form. They read through all the information, what this solution does, what benefits it can bring, and what goals can be achieved. And by the time they reach the form, 90% of users who reached the form, about 80 to 90, I don't remember the exact figure, about 85 or something, completed this form. So by the time they reach it, their motivation is the highest. So this is what I'm saying.
So I was going to ask you, that's fascinating. I was going to ask you about the quant versus qual side of things, because what you're doing, the kind of CRO side of thing, is very quantitative by its nature. I guess you're looking at kind of stats in terms of completion rates and the kind of percentage outputs and so on and so forth. But you mentioned there interviews and the kind of qualitative side of the research piece as well. So I'm interested to know kind of how CRO fits, the quant versus the qual and kind of the overall within kind of user experience.
You see, we have 32 people in our agency, and one of the big troubles we have is that we have to find people who are better, more willing, and more energetic to learn in order to be better than our clients. And our clients are some of the top e-com businesses in Europe and US. Therefore, we have to learn and we have to be very broad in our knowledge. Now, a CRO manager is the one who has good understanding, no, not good, very good understanding of qualitative analytics. So he knows the questions he needs to ask the analysis team in order to be able to understand what the problem is and how to approach it. The person has to be very good in UX research. The CRO manager must be very proficient in UX prototyping, in copywriting, and A/B test, hypothesis formulation, and A/B test methodology. So all this is a symbiosis of all this knowledge in one person or a small team of people. So qualitative analytics and UX research is what makes CRO effective. If some of our clients come to us, say, look, go to our website, look at the funnel, and give me the solutions. Throw me solutions out. And I say, look, in order to give you solutions that have high probability of winning the A/B test, you have to study what prevents users from converting instead of just throwing out ideas. Therefore, you have to do a comprehensive UX research, understanding what drives users, what are the user perceptions, frictions, concerns, ambiguities, objections, or barriers to conversion.
And you talk there about the kind of range of skills that a sort of CRO analyst within your organization needs. I'm interested to know kind of how do you find those people? They sound like a rare breed with that quite broad skill set.
That's a great question. You see, when we started, we were looking for CRO managers. We found that there are about 100 of them in the world, and most of them work in US. So my big intellectual breakthrough was to discover that we have to spend and invest a lot of time in their education. So instead of just looking for people that are good at everything and they 100% work with our standards, I realized that no, I have to find someone who's already at a high level, but his propensity to learn and his willingness to learn is so high that when the person is with me and looking over the shoulder how I'm doing the project, managing them, how I'm working with clients and delivering results to them, they are quick to learn. And as I said, when we started the business, it was at the point where I had to explain to some of our clients or potential clients what is CRO. So they didn't know. So, okay, what is it that you guys do? I said, well, I thought you do. You have a big product, millions of traffic, and you're asking a question like this and say, well, yeah, I know it's something to do with conversion, something with optimizing, but I have no idea how it's done and so on. So I had to explain what it is to walk our potential clients through this. Now, with our business, what I learned is that I have to be very effective in educating our new employees, and we give them some time. So from 4 weeks up to 3 months of onboarding period, where they stay and look over my shoulder or look over the shoulder of other managers in the company to learn how things are done and to learn our standards. And our standards are very high. And
So what advice would you give someone, Ihor, if someone came to you and said, "Hey, look, I'm interested in getting into CRO," what would you tell them?
If you want to get into CRO, if you want to get as a specialist, as a person, as a person who is doing a specific job, I suggest that you start with this specific job, but on the basic level. So when people come to my company and ask for a position to start, they say, I know very little about CRO. I know a little bit about IT and about various product companies, but I have very little knowledge about CRO. I said you have to start as a QA, as a quality assurance engineer that QAs the A/B test, the alternative variations we create for A/B test. But if you're looking to start as an entrepreneur, if you're looking to start an agency or a company focused on CRO, first learn how to sell it, because if you sell it well, this is where you're gonna get practice. You're gonna go to Upwork or any other uh, marketplace, freelance marketplace, and look for a project. Look for a small project, like increasing the conversion rate of small Shopify store. Do learn about the basic methodologies like performance funnel performance analysis. Very basic, very straightforward, but this is the base. Then learn about how to run surveys. Learn about how to conduct user tests. And once you have the funnel performance analysis, survey results, and user tests, you can start working on hypotheses. But of course, I have to tell you, it's not as easy. It's very difficult on your own. You have to have someone with you, or you have to have someone mentoring you or coaching you. So I would definitely suggest partnering with someone who has some experience. It could be a freelancer or working for some agency to learn before.
And what about clients? When clients come to you and they say, "Look, we want to improve our conversion rate for our customers," what are the kind of top tips and advice you give them? How do you go about dealing with clients?
Number one is uh, base all your recommendations and hypotheses on data. It's not difficult. At least it's difficult in the first year or two, but after you learn this, this becomes a routine task to gather sufficient level of data and relevant data to base your hypothesis on. Number two is clients, they value and they respect consultants that can tell them no. If you are just a doer, if you're someone who is doing the wants and wishes of your client, you're a commodity. You're just doing the thing, and there are many people who can do the things that the client wants. At some point, the client will ask you, "Look, Igor, where's the result? It's been 2 months of our cooperation, and where is the result?" Say, "Look, but over the last 2 months, we've been doing a lot of things that you were asking us to, and very little of what we wanted to do." Say, "Look, I don't care what you've been doing. I pay you for the result. Where is the result?" So, that's what I tell my team. Don't tell your client, tell our client, if he wants to do something of his own, he needs to go and hire people who will be doing what he wants. It's basically employees or freelancers. So we are consultants. So we ask our client, what is it that you want to achieve? Give us the metrics and the goals and the metrics, how you gonna measure the effectiveness of achieving these goals. And we will tell you the ways and the most effective ways and methodologies how to achieve this goal. So we will consult you on the shortest and the most effective path to that goal.
I think there's a lot of great advice there for all consultants, Ihor, not just CRO. Yeah, that's very true. Um, what do you know now? Here's a question for you. What do you know now that you wish you'd known when you started out?
We are very aggressive in our marketing, and that's the reason why we are successful. One of the reasons why we're successful. We tell our clients that we will give you a guaranteed result. I had a discussion in one of the chats in Facebook with some CRO pros. I said, this is not true. You cannot guarantee a result in CRO. I said, yes, but if you do the math, I know that I have about 30% A/B test win rate. In some cases, it's for some clients 50%, for some clients 15%, but generally it's 30%. So I need to launch 3 A/B tests in order to win one. I know that my average A/B test win rate is between 8 and 10% in key metric that we decide. So doing the math, putting it all together, if I launch 3 A/B tests, on average, I'll win 1 A/B test and I will give 8 to 10% uplift in the key metric. Now, if I now project it to a client and say, look, if we work 3 months, I will launch a minimum of 3 A/B tests, maybe 4. And on average, I should be able to give you about 10% uplift in conversion rate. This is my guarantee. So I mathematically, I can prove that I can achieve a guaranteed result for my client. Of course, in some cases, we don't achieve this result. And well, very rarely. We have to run 4 or 5 or even 6 A/B tests. But in the end, we do give 10, 15, 20% for our client and everyone is happy. So one of the other advice is be data-driven, be a consultant, and sell result as opposed of process.
And just to pick up on that, for people who aren't familiar with A/B tests as a kind of concept, could you just explain a little bit more about kind of what is an A/B test, how is it run?
You can not understand how a particular experience will affect the outcome without testing it on control group. And the control group are users. So you and me can look at the alternative variation of, say, a conversion form or any conversion flow and say it looks good. It looks, to the point, very efficient. Nothing, no distractions. Very smooth. Very little cognitive load on each step. But it will fail miserably in the A/B test, and it happened quite a few times with us. So there were some tests that I said 99% is going to be 10, 15% uplift, and it was 20% downfall, decline in metrics. Therefore, it has to be tested. What we do is we create hypotheses that lay base for alternative variations. Alternative variation is an iteration of hypothesis with user experience, user interface, and copywriting put in place. For one hypothesis, could have multiple different iterations, multiple different variations, but we create an alternative variation, say, for example, for a checkout of an Shopify e-com store. Now, for checkout of Shopify, it's not a good example because they have restrictions on A/B testing. So let's do a product detail page. We create an alternative variation of product detail page. Now, and then we use tools like Google Optimize, VWO, Converter, and multitude of other tools to insert that alternative variation into the tool and stream the traffic, all the traffic that is going towards the control variation of the product detail page into 2 streams, 50%. Yeah, I mean, you can play around with this differently. You can do 25, whatever, however you want, or 70-30, but we usually split in equally, and we maximize the traffic flow in order to maximize the statistical significance of the result. So we split the traffic into 2 flows, and we see how users interact with control variation, the existing variation that the client had, and the alternative variation, the one that we created. And we see how they progress. So if it's the example of product detail page, we see how they interact with the page, how they visually and interactively engage with the page, how they scroll, how they consume the content, what's the cart to detail rate, how much, what's the rate of adding to cart, what's the abandonment rate after adding to cart, what's the progression from PDP to cart to checkout to thank you page. All of this is being measured, and as a result, we make a conclusion if the alternative variation is a winner, or there is a no winner, or it's a loser. And we have to, of course, do statistically significant result to make sure that the result was achieved not by chance.
And is it always A/B testing, or can you have ABC testing?
You can do as many as your A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but we do not recommend to do more than ABC. Even for some of the big clients that we had who have millions and millions of traffic, uh, we do see some discrepancies in data, and the validity and the of data declines with every additional variation that you add. So ABC is what you should have. There are also other types of testing, like split URL testing or multivariate testing, but the most common ones and the ones that give you good confidence in the result is the A/B test.
And everything you're saying, it presupposes you talked about a kind of high level of traffic. I'm interested to know, for smaller organizations that maybe have kind of lower traffic volumes, what would your advice be to them in terms of kind of gathering statistically significant results and being able to make clear conclusions?
First of all, is minimize the funnel as much as you can. So you have to be, if for example, once again, you're optimizing product detail page, minimize the funnel so it's only users who end up on the product page. This is where the experiment and their experience, the testing of experience starts. So the shorter the funnel, the easier you can make the conclusion. Secondly, monitor the secondary metrics. Not only the macro metrics, how many of those users purchase, because if a client has 200 conversion per month, this very rarely would be enough for a statistically significant result. The more radical the change, the more radical the result will be. If you're changing the color of a button or position of elements, you will never be able to find a statistically significant result. Very, very rarely, with millions of traffic and weeks of A/B testing, basically time lost. But the more change you do, like just now we did an A/B test for one of our clients. We completely redesigned the product detail page. Completely redesigned. 57% uplift. It's huge, but the first A/B test lost around 35-40%. So it was significantly underperforming. The second A/B test, we did another iteration with a significant redesign of the PDP, 57% uplift. If we would do just a slight redesign, we would have get possibly like 5 or 7%.
And I guess there's a lot of, you've talked rightly about your clients and the kind of B2B model. I'm interested to know, kind of with a user-centric hat on, the users and the end users, so the clients of your clients, how do you ensure that kind of their wishes and needs are taken into account, and that you're kind of doing what you're doing with a user-centric, end user-centric, if I can put it like that?
One of our clients said, he's asking, so what do you do? How do you get people to do something that you do? I say, well, you have to communicate the value that they will get from this action. Every single action must have some kind of value. So an action could be going to a product page. Why would you go to a product page? Because you will see possibly the product that you're looking for. So this is value. Why would you then add to cart or proceed to the next step? Because you will see the cost of shipping and other things that generate value to you. User centricity refers to understanding what user wants and giving them this value. I'll give you an interesting example. We had, one of our clients is a mortgage broker in Brisbane, one of the biggest ones. And once again, mortgage brokerage refers to helping clients to find a right mortgage for them. But the reason why the user would be looking for a mortgage could be very different. I have a promotion at work. I have a child. I got married. My mother kicked me out of my house, of her house, and so on. And we did this comprehensive research why would users would be looking for. And so we found that the reasons why users will be coming to the website are very different. They are not specifically looking for the mortgage right now, but they're researching this subject, and maybe they'll be more equipped to apply for a mortgage in a few months. So what we found is that some users are looking for eligibility, if they're eligible at least to apply at all. Some users are looking to understand the borrowing capacity. Some users want to understand which suburbs in Brisbane they are most that most suitable for that family. So, and we created all of this conversion. So before we started to work with the user, there was with the client, there was only one conversion: get a free assessment. That's it. So it was just getting a free assessment, very basic. I mean, nothing deep is put into this conversion. So just some general kind of conversion. So we did a conversion related to eligibility, find out if you're eligible, find out your borrowing capacity, find out the suburbs, or learn about the different suburbs in Brisbane. And one thing which I think is an amazing example of customer centricity and user research, effective user research, is that we did an analysis asking users, why do you want to buy a house now? Why do you want to get a mortgage now? And one of the, well, not one, I mean, first it was one, but this one is the one who made the whole thing for us. We start to dig it. He said, I want to stop paying someone else's mortgage. I want to pay for my own. And we created a calculator on the homepage of our client, the mortgage broker, where you're able to put in the amount of money you're currently paying for your rent, and we'll calculate how much you can borrow if you switch this amount to mortgage repayments, monthly mortgage repayments. And that's just this information and just this functionality increase the conversion rate by 22% of the website, because we learned it from users. They told us that they want to stop paying for someone else's mortgage. They want to pay for their own.
That's fascinating. Oh, that's a great example. And just to pick up on that point, when you said talking to users, how did you do that? Was that kind of an online survey? Was that kind of
Email survey. So once you engage with us on any level, on any conversion, or on any level, if you contact us, we'll send you a survey and say, look, we want to try to better understand you. Give us a little bit of information. If you listen to the users, they will tell you what they want, and then you have to be creative in creating the experience that generate value for them. This is what the customer centricity is, in my view: generating value so that users are willing to continue their engagement with you and continue their interaction and conversion with you.
What about the future, Ihor, in terms of CRO and kind of how it's evolving and where it's going? What would you say about that?
As the business is evolving, and we understand that the traffic at a acceptable price is finite. You cannot drive more and more traffic from 1,000 to 100 million, because at one point you reach the point where the cost of traffic will be too high, and the cost of acquisition cost will be too high for you to judge this investment or to approve this investment. So what we are now looking at is expanding the scope of our attention or of work in order to take into account not only the acquisition, but also the retention. So our focus shifts from average order value, conversion rate, and average revenue per user, that are primary metrics for the first action, say conversion rate for lead gen, the average revenue per user for e-com or marketplace. We're now focusing on lifetime value, retention, and churn rate. And I can give you an interesting example how we're doing this. So one of our clients is selling mouse strips for people to stop or minimize or eliminate snoring while they sleep. And what we found is that this product is sold through one-time purchase. So you can buy one box, or you can subscribe to order replenishment every month or every 3 months. And what we identified is that there was some churn, and we're looking at the reasons why people were churning, why people were canceling their subscription. What we found is that some of them, and it was quite a significant proportion, were saying that, look, I have too many of them now because sometimes I forget to put it on before I go to bed. Sometimes I have, other things that I'm not, I haven't shaved, and therefore it's difficult for me to put it on because of the mustache. I have to shave, and I cannot be bothered before bed. So I have just a stock of them. I don't need any more. We tell them, we ask this question before they cancel their subscription. What is the reason why you cancel? And say, well, I just have too many. I just don't need any more right now. Say, look, uh, let's give them an option to pause the subscription instead of canceling it, and explain that pause your subscription because the price may change, and in order to keep the price, pause it. So we pause your subscription, we deactivate your subscription to activate it in, say, 1 or 2 or 3 months upon your choosing. If users don't need them, then it's not going to work. Users must feel and understand the value from this. Once they understand it, then you can work with them on their on the objections or their perception of the product. So they say the product is great, but I just don't have too many of them. Say pause it, and we will resume it in, say, 2 months. If you choose a 2 month, you can choose 3 months or 1 month. And just this has given us a significant decline um, in uh, in cancellation rate, in rate of canceling subscription. So this is just an example of effective user research and implementation that is focused on lifetime value and retention.
Finish off then. Let's do the 3-card challenge. So this is what I've been doing kind of with all my guests. So tool, technique, and challenge. Tool, technique, and trend. So I've got 3 cards here, Ihor. I'm going to hold them up, and I'd just like you to choose one.
You want me to name it?
Yeah, just name it, and I'll tell you what's
Queen
on
of Diamonds.
So Queen of Diamonds on the back of that is trend. So just tell me a trend that you see at the moment. We touched a little bit about kind of the future of CRO, but maybe a trend more generally in digital, in UX, in anything you kind of wanted to raise.
There is one thing that I think is fascinating. Is ChatGPT, and you probably hear it from
Yeah, of course. It's on everybody's lips, isn't it? And
yes, and I played around and I did some research into this, and I think this is a big one because when a artificial intelligence will be able to identify our mood and our sentiment, this is where you will not be able to understand if you speak to a machine or a human. And this is where a machine will start to imitate a human. And this is where everything can go in very different directions, from a Skynet scenario to a something very beneficial for humanity. Therefore, ChatGPT, in my view, is an incredible breakthrough. And as I said, I was playing around and I was putting things that are controversial and are something that um, a machine shouldn't be able to answer. But the machine is telling me, look, you're asking things that are not very, ethical, or I cannot, project the outcome of a conflict or anything like that. So, but it's interesting how it reacts. So it tries to put me in a position to put a shame on me. So look, you shouldn't be asking these things. I mean, it's not good to ask this thing. But if you want to know, this is my position, and this is how I think it should evolve. So if I wouldn't know this ChatGPT, I would be thinking I'm speaking to someone, some human, and this could go. I mean, the ways it could be implemented a multitude, including the support in ecom or any business. So a support team could become almost eliminated with this service, this technology.
last 2 cards. Choose another one.
Ace of Hearts.
Ace of Hearts, Ihor, is a tool. So tell me about your favorite tool, or a tool that you or your team use in kind of the work you do, and why you like it so much.
What I would tell the podcast audience is that speak to your users all the time and ask them questions, and because a lot of them want to speak to you, a lot of them want to tell you things that you should know, but you're just not interested, or you're not asking the right questions. Therefore, everything related to speaking and to keeping contact with the user. For example, a regular email survey. And when I say regular, say once in 6 months or after the conversions, tell us about your experience. Email survey. An on-site survey. Our clients are, some of our clients are very aggressive and very against any kind of surveys on site. But we say, look, we ask them a question on the thank you page, a question like, what was the one thing that nearly stopped you from buying? Or what was the one thing that convinced you to buy? A thank you page user has already conducted all the steps, already went through the steps and already conducted the conversion. Thank you page has nothing to do with conversion because it's past the conversion. Ask them there. User testing, create scenarios for users to complete a specific action. Google Analytics is an evident example, and everyone in CRO, pretty much everyone will give you the same answer. But in my view, user surveys is what gives us the most hypothesis. So if you give us, if you to ask me what if all the tools I will have to ditch apart from one, I would say a tool that enables us to conduct user surveys online and email.
And the last one, Jack of Spades, technique. So tell me about a technique.
Dedicated dedicated conversion flow based on user intent. I quite often give the same example, but I'll give you a different one. So we have a client from Australia that is selling an itch relief stickers. So once you get bitten by a mosquito, it basically the natural behavior is to scratch until it bleeds, whatever else. But most affected, who's most affected are the kids. And what we did is we analyzed why would user buy a sticker like this. Of course, the end goal is to reduce the itching, but we want to understand what was the initial problem that users came with, because we found they're different. And we did this research, and we found that some users would buy this because they are because their children have allergy to mosquito bites. Some would buy because their initial problem that they came to solve is because their kids would scratch it until it bleeds. Some want to switch from chemically from sprays or creams or gels that have chemicals in it. So there are the different user intents that we identify. So what we did is we segment users based on the user intent. In the beginning of the flow, we asked them what itch relief problems are you looking to solve? And we give them answers. My child gets a lot of bites when outside, need to switch from spray, cream, and gel, need a non-chemical solution for my child, and so on. Basically, it's just we're trying to identify why they're here. So they didn't come here for sticker. Maybe they came for some other problem, but they had a problem, and we gave them a possibility to choose exactly the problem that they came here to solve. Then, based on that user intent, we customer will personalize content and create a dedicated conversion flow that reinforces the value for that user intent user came to address. And as a result, users would get to the point where they're on transactional. So first content, then transactional block, and users buy. This is a methodology that we invented internally called, as I said, dedicated conversion flow based on user intent, and it works very good.
That's brilliant. That's been absolutely fascinating. Thanks so much for your time, Ihor. I've really enjoyed our chat. And yeah, just final question: where can people find out more about you? I'm going to put some links in the episode notes, but just tell us while you're here.
First of all, Mike, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I really enjoyed this conversation with you today. It's very simple. If you go to my LinkedIn account, Ihor Sokol, and you can easily find me, or send me an email. I at ConversionRate.Store. Very easy.
Thanks for listening to the Understanding Users podcast, and special thanks to my guest, Ihor Sokol. If you enjoyed what you heard, do please like or comment wherever you're listening, and feel free to share this episode more widely. And if you'd like to help support the podcast, you can donate a very modest sum by buying me a virtual coffee at ko-fi.com/understandingusers. That's ko-fi.com. Links are in the show notes. That would be hugely appreciated. Thank you. Feel free, of course, as well to drop me a line with any feedback via LinkedIn or my website, researchable.uk. Join me again next time when I'll be talking to another experienced UX professional and asking them to share their wisdom, tips, and knowledge with me. Until then, stay safe and stay user-centered.